So now we're going to sew the yolks in place. So this is our back panel. We've got the right side facing up. This is one of our yoke panels, so this will be the outer yoke. And we're just going to sew it along here. So we're going to sew this, the yoke is double, but we're going to sew it separately because it's a bit hard to manage the 3 layers all at once. So you should have a notch in the middle as well, so you can just keep an eye on that. There should be notches on both pieces, but I've just matched the end up here.
So you have to control it as you sew, hey Mark?
Yeah.
Otherwise it's not even.
So you can see here, just make sure that, you know, like you can actually see both layers, that they're sitting on top of each other, and then just, you know, alter that as you go along.
It's part of the notches is so that you can control the fabric.
Yes, so you don't have to do it all in one long stretch. So this is the inside yoke now, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to sew it from this side, and I'll just sew over the line that I've already done. So we've got the right side of facing the inside of the garment here. So these are the darts you should be able to see on the inside, and by doing it like this, we're going to have this seam here will actually be enclosed between the layers. And here I am just going to match that back bit at the center back. So back tack, and then literally just stitch over the line that you've already got there, making sure that you're keeping these 3 layers all in the same place. Okay, so then when we fold this up, you can see we've got a seam there, the outside yoke, and then the inside yoke, and then that seam is in between these 2 layers. So now we're going to just do our front panels.
So you need to make sure that you're sewing it to the outside of the garment back, and not the other way around.
Yes. So we've got our outside yoke, our front panel here, so it'll just, this is the way that it flows through over the shoulder, so we just have to pull this over so we can sew this seam here. Actually we can do both of them, so this is both of our fronts here, so you can see we've got the center front here, the facing with the fold, and the same here, so they need to be facing into the middle because this is our neckline here and they need to all join together. So again with the front we're just sewing the 2 layers together, even though we've got an inside yoke and an outside yoke. We're just doing them one at a time. Maybe if you wanted to put in the effort, you could sew the 3 layers together at once, but I'm not that person.
It's not easy to deal with 2 pieces of fabric and 3.
Exactly, it's managing the 3 layers. And so just match it up at the end and then work from one to the other. Okay, so we've got our fronts joined on here, and if we flip this over to the inside, you can see the darts on the inside at the back. This is obviously the inside of the fabric. Now we need to sew these 2 together, and what we do here is we need to fold them back. So we need to have it like this, so you can see them open like a book, and then you need to spin this around here so that you can then, and it's a little bit, it's actually, it's easy when you're doing it, it just seems very complicated. So I'll do this side and then I'll show you that process again on the other one. And there's enough room inside the yoke for all of this to bunch up inside here. Okay, and then once we've done that, then we can pull this out. And you'll see that those yoke seams are all on the inside now.
Just completely bagged
So
out.
it's a really nice finish.
Here's a nice finish.
So on the
So
other
let's see
side
that again,
here,
'cause it does look like magic sometimes.
so we've got our, that's our outside layer, outside garment. This is the inside yoke, our back here. So you just lift these up and then you swing this around, push everything else in between, and then you line these two up.
Yeah, so make sure nothing's getting caught in the side.
Yes. And once you've got it into that position, then you could pin this if you wanted to, but it's not a very long seam, so it's actually pretty easy to keep handle of.
Of course, if the yoke was really skinny, you wouldn't be able to do this.
Yes.
You've got to be able to fit all the bulk of the fabric.
Yes, the size of the yoke that we've got on here is a pretty sort of traditional size, so it'd be the same size as the yokes on most men's shirts, including the one that I'm wearing here.
Yeah.
And so then once that's sewn, we can just pull all of that out again. And you see all of our seams on the inside. Now just before we go ahead, we're just going to connect these because we've got the two layers of the yokes here. They can wiggle around, so just to make sure everything stays in place, we just sit that flat, make sure our centre back neck notch is matched up, and we're just going within the seam allowance, because you only have a 6mm seam allowance around the neck. We're just going to stitch those two layers together so that when we start to sew the collar onto it, we're just dealing with this as one layer rather than two separate layers.